Reinventing yourself as an attorney might sound like one of the most scary things to do in your legal career, but believe it or not, this happens to attorneys who are just starting out their practice to those who've been seasoned attorneys for several decades. And our guest today is none other than Dr. Christian Kessel. So Dr. Christian Kessel is an attorney and legal consultant with over 30 years of experience, including more than 2 decades as a partner at a top international law firms. He's based in Frankfurt, Germany, and he's a former leader of multiple industry sector groups and a proven rainmaker. He now coaches lawyers across the world. He's a global consultant, namely in Europe and North America, on practical business development. But one of the things that caught my attention when talking to Christian was so much of the consulting work that he does has a lot to do with mindset. Of course, there's practical tools and strategies and workbooks and workshops to go through. However, so much of this is our mental preparation for reinventing ourselves. And so reinventing ourselves could be something as minor as leaving a practice from which you were an employee to building your own practice. Or it's facing model changes with tort reform and saying, do I want to stick in this practice area for another 20 years after several decades of prior success? It could, and everything in between. So I'd like to welcome to the program Dr. Christian Kessel. Christian, thanks for hopping on today.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. It's a great joy, great fun to be with you, and I really look forward to a great discussion.
Yeah, awesome. So Christian, tell us a little bit about how you got into consulting for attorneys. I know you were previously an attorney at top international law firms, but what made you go away from that and start working individually with attorneys in more of a coaching aspect?
Well, I had reached regular retirement age at my last big international law firm, and so I had to decide what to do afterwards. And the one thing that I enjoyed most to the very end was business development. And so already during the pandemic, I was thinking about, what to do after retirement. I had a bit more time during the pandemic for obvious reasons. And I took coaching classes and did a coaching training, became a coach, and decided to set up on my own after my retirement for coaching lawyers, attorneys, also training them in law firms on successful business development.
That's great. And so what's like the average, tell us about like the typical attorney that you're working with these days, who is seeking your help, namely with, addressing like significant career changes.
Yeah, it's really 3 groups of people. It's very young lawyers, mid-level, senior associate, counsel, who realize that they are not being prepared for business development in their firms. They get no training, they have no partner who is a role model, they don't really know how to go about it. And so there's often not so much in reinventing themselves, but in inventing themselves, figuring out what to do, what to specialize on. I mean, they got into some field or the other of law or one industry area or the other just because they applied for an open position in a law firm. It sounds reasonably interesting, but whether that is really what they want to do the rest of their life or not, that's the question. But so it may involve reinventing, but often it's also, well, I actually quite like what I'm doing, just that I don't know how to build a business case, how to get a book of business for myself and make partner eventually. So that is the first group. The second main group is really young partners, 2 or 3 years after they have made partnership. And suddenly they realize, well, the wonderful business case with which I made partner doesn't quite work out the way I envisaged, the way I promised to the firm's management, the way I promised to the partnership. And now what do I do? And again, often they have the problem they haven't really been trained much on business development. They kind of happen to have great clients who their partner also was willing to give to them, hand over to them. So they may not have that much experience. And they often also realize, maybe I'm not quite in the right area, don't have quite the right specialization. Maybe I need a bit more of a niche. So that is already more reinventing than the more junior lawyers. And then the third group, they are really in for reinventing themselves in a big way. It's mostly partners, late 40s, around 50, mid 50s, whose business model has changed, or their client's business model has changed. What they have been doing for 20 years is no longer sought after by clients. And suddenly, well, they are without much work. No more work comes in. They work off everything that's on their desk, and then that's it. Or I had one litigation partner who had done for years 3 major litigation cases, and then one was settled. One of the parties went bankrupt. That ended the proceedings in a way. And the third one was that the court suddenly rendered a judgment very unexpectedly, rather than hearing even more witnesses. And suddenly nothing on the desk anymore. What do I do now? And particularly these older people, the older partners, they come from a period of time when there was no big need to do much business development, when the name of the firm was enough, or when just business somehow flowed in naturally, and they never had any experience of business development. So they have that double struggle. Suddenly, after 20 successful years, nothing on the table anymore, blank desk, and also not really knowing how to go about it.
You mentioned, yeah, that's a great spectrum. I love how you said it's from the attorneys inventing themselves to the ones reinventing themselves, who are addressing or kind of accepting or have difficulty accepting, like, maybe not the new ways of the world, but just the evolving ways of the world. You know, that it's not that much of a merit-based business anymore. Marketing has a lot to do with generating, you know, the vast majority of your revenues. It has a lot to do with, you know, hand-to-hand combat, going in the trenches, network marketing, things of that nature, right? And so I find that, at least when I talk to attorneys, you know, we specialize in that Spanish marketing, right? And for some attorneys, they just get it. For many others, it's a substantial shift in their mindset. It's they see like a loss of control, because they don't fully understand everything that's being advertised on their behalf in Spanish. And so even though it will work, it's still difficult for them to accept, you know, a little loss of control. I find that that's like one of the bigger mindset deltas that I interface with attorneys. Can you tell me a little bit about the mindset difficulties that attorneys have when they need to make these changes? Let's talk more about the later generation attorneys who are not that privy to marketing, are not that privy to network marketing. Like, what is it about that type of change that is so difficult for them to accept?
Well, the first thing is they have been successful lawyers. And in law school, they were told, you will be wonderful and successful lawyers. They joined the law firms. Everyone told them, you are at the best law firm ever. You'll have a great career. You are amazing. And that went on for 20 years. And now suddenly they realize there is a shift. And suddenly the world isn't so awesome for them anymore. And suddenly they realize, well, maybe the best years have passed. What do I do now? And for lawyers, and in particular partners, it's very difficult telling anyone that business is not as brisk, business is not as good anymore as it has been. I find lawyers, partners in particular, and partner meetings, they tell each other they have the biggest clients, they have the best clients, they have the household name clients, they have the greatest pitches, they have the most work in the pipeline. Everything is beautiful. I have never, ever heard anyone saying, oh, well, it's difficult, I'm struggling. Maybe during a recession, they are saying, oh, well, we're getting by. It's not so easy at the moment, but we're getting by.
Right.
I've never heard anyone say it's not going well at all. And I think that is a really mind blocker.
Yeah.
And you really need to be aware that something has shifted. You need to be able to admit that your mindset needs to shift from decades of being told you're the greatest and best and most profitable and whatever to, wow, actually, I have a problem.
Right. That's fantastic. So do you think the problem that you see with folks that need to make a business adjustment to go more marketing focused, do they struggle with just doing the actual interfacing with people, like the networking? Do they struggle with like getting it? Like, is there a bit of shame, for instance? Like you talk about that partner in their 40s and their 50s, and I'm thinking maybe they've had such an esteemed career that they might feel like it's a step down. It's like maybe it's going to hurt their ego a little bit to appear at conferences, at events, shaking hands, that maybe they thought that maybe they were above that or they were beyond that. Do you think that has a little to do with that mind shift change from the more previously successful attorneys?
Yes, absolutely. Maybe shame is a little bit strong a word, but it goes in the right direction. Certainly, they were beyond shaking hands and appearing at conferences and working the room often, because they had a constant stream of work coming in, or they were busy, in my one example, with these 3 big litigation cases for 5 years. Everything was beautiful. No need to be out and about and asking for business. So suddenly to be in a position where you need to talk to clients about what's their next big project, what is their next big litigation case potentially, what are the issues in the industry, how can I help? They are so used that enough work came in their way anyway, that clients would call and say, I have a problem, can you help? Oh yes. And now it's the other way around. They need to say, do you have a problem? Are you foreseeing anything on the horizon? New regulations, new compliance issues, new case law going up to the federal Supreme Court or whatever? How can I help? And also they lack the terminology and the conversation skills to turn a conversation from just small talk, meeting people at a conference, turning that conversation towards the business side of it all.
That's so difficult, though. That's another muscle. Like it's not. It's like it's a completely dormant muscle for a lot of, I would find, successful business persons, right? Because they've grown on the merit of like their work, and they've never really had to do that. But when there's a model change, whether that's tort reform or marketing changes, you just have to go back into that mode of like pitching, and like instead of what you're saying, counseling immediately, you're actually now trying to do your own discovery, trying to figure out what other people's problems are to see if they could be a client. So I'm curious, like, is that, you mentioned a lot of your clients, like that partners at corporate law firms, things of that nature, and I think this is still super relevant to the majority of our audience and our members who work in, say, personal injury or immigration law or criminal defense. At some point, your marketing will ultimately find a ceiling. And that's, as an agency owner, it hurts me to say, but it's just the reality. Like, there's only so many ad dollars that you could spend to get saturation in the market. But you're still going to have to sell yourself, your reputation. You still have to be in the market no matter how successful you are. You're still going to have to appear at events, I mean, I use the words have to if you care about keeping and growing your business ultimately. But can you tell us a little bit about the homework that you give to your clients who are really not comfortable doing this, the network marketing, which, or, shooting a video, or, sending the right emails and going to the right events? Like, what's kind of the homework that you give your clients to say, like, hey, stop prohibiting your own growth. Like, let's do something together. Like, let's get out of your comfort zone for a minute.
Yeah, I mean, there are various ways to go about it. The first is very simple. Really be clear where you want to go. What is your vision? How you want to either reinvent your career into a slightly different direction, or are you sure you want to go on just develop new clients?
Yeah.
And then the first thing, and maybe the easiest, is even calling up a few clients or sending a few emails to clients, and predominantly clients that maybe had been active a year ago or 2 years ago, but who haven't given you any work. So just send them an email or check in with them by phone, and ask, we had such a good relationship. You came to my mind. I just want to find out, how are you doing? I remember our transaction or our litigation case or our working together so pleasantly. And the other day you came back into my mind. So I thought I'd give you a ring and see how you're doing. And, find out how they are doing. Find out what keeps them from given you instructions for the last 12 months or 15 months. So that's a very easy homework. And the first step in the homework is really make a list of those clients that haven't been with you for a year or two, but with whom you had a really nice working relationship, where you felt you did good work, had a good personal relationship. They appreciated you as a lawyer and as a human being, as a fun guy to work with, etc. Other stuff is, if we then look at strategy, what can you do? Give a presentation somewhere at a relevant industry body or some form of conference. Homework would be research on the internet. Maybe even ask ChatGPT or some other such AI device, what are good conferences to go to? What are the usual industry conferences? And then figure out, are they the right place for you? If you have found some, decide whether you just want to attend or whether you want to be a speaker or a panelist there, maybe.
There's a hack that I'd like to offer up in there, because I think you're totally right. It's like, if you want to find more clients, like, be where your clients are, right? Like, that's like the lowest hanging fruit.
Oh, yeah.
The events, I find that the really good events are in peer groups. So if you're in peer groups with other fellow attorneys, or other service professionals like CPAs, tax preparation, fractional C-suite individuals who may need to retain your services. I know organizations like Entrepreneurs Organization, Provisors, Hampton is another great one, where if you're a member and you offer a virtual or in-person event, they will 99% of the time say, yes, please present. We love the content. You're adding value to the community. If you're, let's call it a tax attorney, you should be talking about tax strategies for 2025 for, small businesses. If you're an immigration attorney, you want to talk about, let's call it, if you want referral business, talk to your peer group, go to churches. If you want direct communication with the consumer. So I think what you're tapping into is just saying, like, you need to be where your buyers are, like, full stop. Don't reinvent the wheel. Just be in front. So, and how often do you tell your clients to do this kind of work, to appear in front of groups?
Well, I mean, basically as often as you can.
Mhm.
If you like doing that, you need to be a person who likes speaking in front of a group of people. If that is not your cup of tea,
Mhm.
don't do it. You won't be authentic. You won't be come across naturally. You won't seem enthusiastic on your topic. If you don't like speaking in front of people, don't do it. But if you like that, then it's perfect. I did it all the time. I loved it, and I couldn't get enough of it. I mean, I had to reduce because my business grew too much, but it's a great way, and people meet you. They are confronted with you in a good sense. They can't run away if they look at in social media at you, or you post something on social media. It's a chance event whether they actually read your post and say, hey, that's a clever guy, that's a great person, maybe I should ring them, or not. But at a meeting, at a conference, they can't run away. They are stuck with you for half an hour, and they need to form an opinion on you. And if you're good, easygoing, great contents, no legal nitty-gritty, but tell a few war stories, tell your experience, how to solve issues, then they're all yours. And I guarantee you, they come and give you their business cards, and they want yours. So
Yeah, and so what's the alternative for your clients who say, I don't want to speak in front of a crowd, I don't want to do a presentation, I am scared. I mean, that's the biggest fear globally, right? It's public speaking, allegedly. So what's the alternative to that?
Well, you can develop smaller formats where maybe you have people attending some form of event where you stand around tables and you can work each table and talk to 4 or 5 people for 20 minutes, and then you move on to the next table. That is something which is far more personal than standing on a podium in front of 200 people. Also, if that works for you, wonderful. And the same results, people get to know you. You can ask questions on how they are doing, how they perceive the industry, how they perceive perhaps legislative projects that are in the pipeline, and then have a discussion about it all. And they get to know you professionally, but also your personal side of it. And they make up their mind whether you are the kind of person they would like to do a project with together.
Yeah. So do you find that creating these habits is the largest area of resistance with your clients, because they have to create new habits? Like, for instance, you're mentioning the outreach, finding the events, sending email touch points to prior clients, finding new referral sources, creating content and visibility, doing research, doing reflection and planning. Like, blocking out time for that, I struggle with even today. Having run this business for 8+ years, I still struggle because something new comes up and then I push it out. And that discipline, it takes a real discipline to like stay on top of that. Do you find that that's ultimately one of the bigger struggles, the mindset, of having great discipline?
Coming back to mindsets, one mindset I wanted to mention as well is many attorneys are not really used to being entrepreneurs and thinking entrepreneurial style. And I don't see themselves as business people. They see themselves as lawyers and attorneys, which is great. But there is that added bit, which is the entrepreneurial side of them. And you need to be a seller and have the mindset and the identity of selling yourself, your team, your expertise. And that is fine, selling yourself. And yes, related to that as well is the discipline of doing it continuously, doing it consistently.
Right.
If you don't perceive your business development as a sales effort for yourself, and that is as much part of your job and job description as the lawyering and the giving advice and doing the transaction, then you'll struggle. You'll always be in two minds. There's always work to be done. There's always a bill to be sent out. There's always admin. And it's easy to find excuses not to do business development, not to sell yourself, and therefore have a system. And there are various forms of systems. You mentioned putting it as a time blocker in a diary. That's great. Another system is working to deadlines. Sign up for something where you need to give a presentation, and then you need to have that ready by the deadline. You can also find an accountability partner. It could be, the spouse. It could be a family member, and who are entitled to ask you at the end of each week, have you done your business development, and speak into your life. You can also ask your secretary, check in with me, and if I haven't done it, I'll give you $50 for each assignment I haven't done. Well, they'll get going. And
that's great.
So accountability systems also help, or take on a coach. If you don't have a friend, if you don't have a trusted colleague or someone, hire a coach just to check in with you once a week or once a month. Have you done your business development? If not, why not? But maybe you can do it with a relative, with a good friend, a trusted colleague. That is absolutely fine.
It doesn't work until it gets done, and accountability partners do help. Yeah, and I couldn't agree more with that. That's fantastic. So we're right about a time, Christian. So let's say someone wants to work with you. What does that look and feel like?
Basically, I do 1 hour coaching sessions, and in coaching, it's always the coachee that decides what we talk about. So it can be anything, or I have a system where I take them through all the stages of successful business development. But we do it in a very personalized way for the very coachee, what he or she specifically wants and needs for her vision or his vision to grow and take it from there.
So, Christian, what's the best way to reach you?
Reach me by email. It's all on my webpage, Dr. Christian Kessel. You find me on the internet. You find me on LinkedIn. That's the easiest way to get in touch with me.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. We'll put your website, christiankessel.com, on our email. Christian, really thank you for joining us today. Totally different perspective. Is more of a global perspective too, but honestly quite resonant to a lot of the attorneys we speak to. The biggest blocker oftentimes is ourselves, and I think you help unlock that for a lot of attorneys you work with.
Ultimately, it's all the same, whether you're in a small boutique law firm for consumers or in a big international law firm. You're absolutely right. You need to deal personally with your own issues first, and then everything else follows from that.
Love that. Christian, thank you so much. And to everyone joining today, thank you for watching. To our team who produced another great event, thank you very much. Until next time, bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Bye-bye.